Hey guys, Alex from 7th Hour Films back again with The Witcher. Last time around we finished up Season 2 with Family. However, I don't think that's going to really have much bearing on what we're doing today, so we're not going to go into it that much. Today we are watching The Witcher Nightmare of the Wolf, the 2021 animated movie that was released on Netflix. So I probably should have done this before I watched Season 2, but that didn't happen, so yeah. If you're just sort of jumping in on this reaction and you haven't seen my others, just know that I've already seen Season 2 of The Witcher on Netflix, and if you haven't seen Season 2 and you don't want any spoilers, then this probably isn't the video for you, because I probably will mention something here or there. So go watch The Witcher Season 2, you can watch my reactions as well, then you can come on back and watch this with me. So yeah, I know I'm doing these out of the order they were released, but what can you do? So yeah. But yeah, Nightmare of the Wolf, I do believe this is about a young Vesemir, which is pretty interesting. And yeah, this is our first sort of expansion on the Witcher universe that Netflix is doing. Definitely I feel like trying to get out ahead of the Game of Thrones game, you know? Which, I mean, Game of Thrones, lasted for so long until it shot itself in the foot. And because it shot itself in the foot, it kind of shot any and all, like... Well, I mean, I guess there's a prequel coming out, right? But, I don't know. Might be interesting, might be. But The Witcher is definitely trying to get out on that immediately. Netflix has their own darker fantasy story. So yeah, Nightmare of the Wolf. Very, very interested to watch this. This is a movie reaction. Duh. But that means that the reaction will be a bit longer than normal Witcher reactions, normal episode reactions, because this is a longer movie. If you want to watch along with me, full length, full unedited reaction, over at my Patreon page for just $5 a month, you can watch that and literally any other full length that I've ever done. Just $5. The link is down in the description if you want to do that, if you want to watch the movie alongside me. It'll be like watching it with a friend. A very, probably annoying, loud friend with terrible dad jokes. So, yeah, if you want that, you could pay for that. This isn't a great ad, is it? Oh well. Anyway, yeah. That's pretty much all the lead up I got. Let's just go ahead and jump right into The Witcher Nightmare of the Wolf. Here we go. Hey there. So, you know how Netflix calls this an anime film? A Netflix original anime film? Well, turns out they really do mean that, because they're not allowing me to put this on YouTube, basically. So I put up the original video, and it got hit with copyright. I disputed it, and then they rejected the dispute, which they have not done for the entirety of Season 2 of The Witcher. In fact, they've been releasing a lot of claims on those episodes, but not this movie. So basically, I'm going to treat this movie like I do pretty much every anime video that I put on YouTube. If you want to watch my reaction to The Witcher Nightmare of the Wolf, what you got to do is head down in the description or into the pinned comment. That will take you to a link, basically, that will let you watch my reaction. It's pretty simple. It's not behind a paywall or anything. You just click on that. There's actually 2 links in case the first link doesn't work. You have a backup link if you want to use that. But yeah, you can do that. Hopefully you will still enjoy the reaction, and you can pop back over to this video afterwards for the discussion. So yeah. Whew. Well, that was a nice, condensed, concise origin story of Vesemir, just through and through. Damn. Okay. That was interesting. All right. It's also interesting that Geralt was bald. I don't know why. I didn't think of that. I wouldn't have thought that for a young Geralt. Oh well, he grew his hair in. Now, presumably, so there were only 4 kids there, but There were only 4 kids there, but there were a number of Witchers, obviously in season 2 that we saw, but also he referenced some of them, Lambert, Eskel, Cohen, so that's interesting. I guess that just means Geralt is one of the younger ones. I would assume, though, that the others are also then younger than Vesemir, which is why he now has that seniority, basically. Okay. So, very interesting movie, I must say. And I have to say, I feel like it's really interesting because I almost feel like this works better after season 2 than before. And this came out before season 2, but now, granted, okay, I guess a lot of people watching this will probably either know the books or the games or what have you. I'm watching The Witcher, as you know. Or you might know if you've been watching my reactions. I'm watching The Witcher with no experience, basically. I know nothing about the story from the books, the games, nothing. I'm just watching the Netflix show and now this movie. So I don't have any knowledge about that. But I'm sure there are a lot of fans who already knew about Vesemir and the sacking of Kaer Morhen and everything like that. And so yeah, it's interesting because I almost feel like this does kind of work better after season 2, because after season 2 I don't know, maybe because I have more investment in Vesemir, because Vesemir I don't think is featured at all in season 1. So honestly, it's like I know him. It's like I understand this movie a lot better because I saw the second season, maybe. I'll be curious, what you guys think, how this, works, how you guys think this might work in relation to season 2. Like, is this better before or after season 2? I would say after, just because you understand Kaer Morhen and the other Witchers and stuff like that. So, yeah. The Witcher... Nightmare of the... Not the Wold. The Wolf. Not Nightmare of the World. The World! No, the Wolf. There we go. Alright. Now, I can already guess, probably, some of the voices. Alright, so we've got Theo James. Theo James played Vesemir. Let's see what we got here. I was right. He is in Castlevania. He played Hector. I knew that voice sounded familiar. All right. He also was the voice of young Vesemir in an episode of The Witcher. I don't even remember young Vesemir's voice in The Witcher, but that's pretty cool. Alrighty, we've got Mary McDonnell as Ileana. Oh, she's the first lady in Independence Day. That's kind of funny. Okay. Doesn't look like I recognize her from anything else. Oh, okay, interesting. So, Laura Pulver played Lady Gilchrist, and she was in Sherlock as Irene Adler. Okay. That's pretty interesting. Yep, okay, I was 100% correct that Graham McTavish played Deglin. He also voices Dracula in Netflix's shit, why can't I think of it? Castlevania, that's it, I'm stupid. But he also is in The Witcher. He plays Dijkstra in season 2. So, is there anyone else? Probably not. No. Oh, well, something kind of funny right here at the end. The Leshy, which they said it was a Leshin, which is interesting, but here it's Leshy, but it was played by Steve Bloom, That's really funny. And then D. Bradley Baker is a bunch of creatures, because if you're going to have someone voice a creature of some variety, then, yeah, you get D. Bradley Baker. Now, something interesting, I remember... I could have sworn that... in the series, in Season 2, when Vesemir talked about Deglin, he said Declan with a C. But here it's Deglin, you know? So I'm going to see if I can quickly, search that. I guess it's just Deglin. Okay. Okay, I could have sworn they said Declan. Maybe they didn't. Can't be distracted by stuff on YouTube. Okay. So, very, very interesting. Very, very interesting stuff in this one. I mean, definitely... Again, I feel like this almost works better after Season 2. Because, again, in Season 2, they allude to the sacking of Kaer Morhen and, the destruction of a lot of things, the death of a lot of Witchers, and, it basically is like, well, after that, it was just Vesemir and a bunch of boys, basically, and he, built them up, basically. They became the new Witchers, and that's basically Geralt's origin story. But yeah, because that's alluded to, and you hear about that, and then that leads to more of the desperation when Vesemir tries to turn Ciri into a new Witcher, It's very interesting because, yeah, having the sort of, references to that in Season 2 and then seeing that here, I'm way more invested in this now because after Season 1, I don't think I would have been, And I know this isn't a problem for a lot of people watching this because a lot of people watching this, they do know the story. They played the games or they've read the books or what have you, and they're not all sitting here like me, but when you're making stuff like this, you do have to think about guys like me who don't know anything. How do you make this, how do you make this work? How do you make this appealing and stuff? And for me, while I've been able to follow pretty much both the show and this movie, this, I think, definitely works better if you've seen Season 2. You've seen where Vesemir ends up. Now, there's the slightest disconnect between young animated Vesemir and the Vesemir that we see in the Witcher series, But you could also say that about pretty much everything here, the action in this can be a lot more grand and people flying around and doing all sorts of crazy stuff because it's animated, Whereas the Witcher show, you do have the limitations of live action, But that's okay. You can sort of get past it, but I still, honestly, I do see a lot of, similarities. I do buy that, the Vesemir in this and the Vesemir in the show are the same Vesemir, Only now, it's I don't even know, maybe 100 years later or so. It's 100 years later or so for between this and Season 2, So yeah, very interesting, very, very interesting stuff. So, we've got Lady Gilchrist, a very interesting villain, I must say. She almost... I don't know, she almost reminds me a bit of Frollo from Hunchback of Notre Dame, just, the persecution and stuff. But it's interesting because, yeah, you have to go off of this whole thing. Pretty much what Vesemir says in Season 2, Mages created monsters, the monsters got out of control. Mages created Witchers to stop the monsters, then the people turned on the Witchers, basically. And you have to portray that here, and I will say, it is portrayed very well. Now, granted, yes, Tetra does have a stick up her butt the size of East Texas when it comes to Witchers. But a lot of what she says, you do kind of understand, and I like that. I like that it's not just some power-hungry, crazy mage or anything like that. Like, she does make sense. She does make some good points. And honestly, they kind of prove her right. They kind of prove her right because they literally become the thing. They become the monster because Deglin starts, Deglin and Rydrich, they start doing this where they are creating these monsters through, alchemy, basically. Alchemical mutation in order to, stay in business, basically, But, whereas, yes, she was right, she just then takes this as an opportunity of wiping out the Witchers, basically. Instead of, well, stop this, maybe we get rid of Rydrich and Declan, and then Vesemir, who said, we are not going to do this, you could have worked this out in a better way, but then she's like, well, that is proof. I need to get rid of these guys, So all of that was just very, very interesting. I like Phil Evangel being in this story as well, that was very, very interesting. And again, The Witcher, there's a lot of persecution in The Witcher, which is very interesting. And not just from the scragglers of the Witchers themselves, but also just the elves. Just the elves just killed. Why? Because they're elves. That's why, So you can understand, you understand a lot of where Phil Evangel is coming from. And I like that, the moment where, he's trying to save these elven girls from being mutated by Kitsu. But then they have, there's the daughter, and it's like, well, I will raise her, I'll raise her to be better. Even though this is not a good thing, obviously Tetra wants to, kill her and everything. Let me at least go and try to raise this child. And if something turns out bad, I will, kill her myself. Now, I wonder if that was in reference to anything from the Witcher show, because I do remember there was a scene, I can't remember what episode it was, but it was in season 2, where Stregobor was talking about, I believe talking about an elf that, went crazy or something. At least that was his story. And, he was trying to use that as to, that's why we need to take down Yennefer or something. I don't know if this is supposed to be referencing that or not. I don't know. Honestly, the more I go on, I definitely want more of Phil Evangel. He's becoming a much more interesting character as time goes on, So, yeah. And then I like how, this isn't just some story with Vesemir. I like that it is a full origin story of Vesemir. And again, I feel like it works better if you already know some of, if you already, kind of know him from watching season 2, So, you pretty much understand everything. And again, I've said this a bit in my reactions to the show. This is so Castlevania. Honestly, I'm thinking about everything, especially with the Netflix Castlevania show they made, where they talk about, the Belmonts, they were persecuted and stuff. The church wanted to get rid of them. They were, soldiers for the church to fight the monsters, and then the church turned on them, basically. And, the people were like, oh, they used the black magics and stuff. And it's like, oh, they're causing all this evil, even though it's Dracula in the church, but whatever. And stuff, and, it basically gets down to the point where it's like, yeah, Trevor is the last of the Belmont clan, it ends with him, basically, until he, has a child. And that I feel that sort of, and it's just kind of ironic that both of these are on Netflix, but yeah. I do wonder, though, if the same studio that did Castlevania on Netflix also animated this movie. The animation was brilliant, by the way. I really enjoyed it. And I must say, this is a slight tangent, I really enjoyed that this was 2D animation. Can I just say that real quick? Nothing against 3D animation. There's a lot of great 3D animation out there. But in recent years, I will say it's boy, every animated movie is 3D animation, and that's fine, but I like some good 2D animation, and, aside from anime itself, Western animation doesn't do a lot of 2D animation, with some exceptions. You'll get some DC movies, or this So I like that. I like having a 2D animated movie, you know? Though it is, I will say it's kind of weird when at the beginning it's like a Netflix original anime movie. It's like, okay, was this made in Japan? Because if not, it's not really anime. And I don't mean to say that like, I don't want to say that as like a gatekeeping, like, this ain't anime, that's not right and stuff. But it's like, that's just kind of the definition of anime is just Japanese animation. You can say it's anime inspired, but it's the same reason I don't call Avatar The Last Airbender anime or Castlevania anime. They're not anime. They're most likely anime inspired, but I wouldn't just put up front a Netflix original anime, you know? Like, chill out. You're not anime. And that's okay. You don't have to be anime, you know? You're great on your own. You don't have to try to say something like, oh, but look at me, I'm this. And it's like, it's okay. Just be yourself. So, slight tangent about anime and animation, but, well, there we are. But yeah, but the origin of Vesemir, I really enjoyed. And again, very Castlevania, you know, where it's like, yeah, here's just this Witcher, he shows up and he helps you out with your fucking monster shit, you know? And I like that. That was really, really good. And yeah, so we had Vesemir, a child who wanted more, you know? He honestly, he definitely, maybe more than Geralt, because we don't see a lot of Geralt as a child in this, but he honestly reminds me a bit more of Ciri, where it's like, you know, he had, not that he, you know, had this amazing life like she did, you know, with, you know, riches and stuff like that, but, you know, he had a decent life, you know, and from that, but he's like, oh, I want more, I want to get away, I want to explore the world and stuff, and that led him to being a Witcher. Because that is something I say in Season 2, you know, when Ciri's like, I want to be a Witcher, and it's like, I don't know if people want to be Witchers, you know? But, then again, the people who want to be Witchers probably have more of the drive to survive, you know? Like, people like Thomas in this. Thomas, you know, what was he, just like dropped off by his parents? That's just something that happens. You just dropped off to be a Witcher, basically. You're just abandoned and dropped off. And so he probably didn't want to be here, and that's probably why he died. He doesn't actually have that fighting spirit. And Vesemir did, you know? Vesemir did. Now, again, there is also the whole thing with Geralt. Geralt wasn't really, I don't think he ever wanted to be a Witcher, but he was able to become a Witcher, you know? Through Vesemir's guidance. So yeah. So Vesemir's backstory with, you know, he wanted more and he helped out Deglin in order to stop that monster. That was interesting. And then, yeah, his split from Ilyana. Yeah, it makes sense. And I like that sort of, you know, I like that sort of story where it's, you know, it's a very classic story of like, you know, one person goes off to discover themselves and then they meet up with that other person later. I like, though, that because it's The Witcher, yeah, you meet her like 50 years, probably 60 years later, and yeah, she's all older now, and he's still, you know, he still looks like a young man because he's a Witcher, and I like that. And yeah, when they met up again, I thought that was really, really good. We did get to see some of the trials, because we've never really seen, like, what happens, you know, what do they go through when they become Witchers. And yeah, so we saw the trials and the rebirth and everything, and yeah, that whole, you know, thing of like, oh, I hope you find your rebirth as well, as he's like suffering trying to get through this garbage of becoming a Witcher and being altered and stuff. Crazy. Very, very crazy. Okay, another thing. So fire magic. So we had in Season 2 that, you know, fire magic is this sort of taboo, but Yennefer was able to do it at Sodden, at the cost of her own magic, basically. And then we did get, you know, Snappy Machu, who, you know, oh, he just controls fire, and it's like, what the heck, that's a taboo and stuff. But I like how they kind of say it here. It's like, I would imagine it's basically a taboo because it's too dangerous. You know, basically, like Tetra says, like, you have to have the proper, and I mean proper skill in order to control fire. And I like that. That's a very interesting take on it. So it's a taboo in that, it's not like, oh, this thing is just, is too crazy. No, you can never do it. It's like, well, you would have to be really good or else you're going to get burned, basically, So I like that. That was very, very interesting. And yeah, so we had the whole crossbreeding, which was interesting, and crossbreeding elven girls to be new monsters. Now, why was Kitsu doing that? I don't remember. Was that just for revenge because she wanted to, because of what's happened to the elves over the years? I'm not really sure. Maybe I missed something in there. But that was interesting. I also liked, showing a bit of Vesemir's morals, when it's like, oh, well, if he had set aside his love for Coin and gone with Filavandrel, then maybe that could have worked out, But then, after they find, the girl, and it's like, well, this is dangerous. If she has, half the power that Kitsu did, then she could, be incredibly dangerous to the world. But Vesemir lets them go, Vesemir lets them go. He trusts Filavandrel, and, even when Tetra says, like, oh, well, I should have just given you some coin, then you would have done it. And he's like, no, I do have some morals. There are some lines you don't cross. And, yeah, it's basically, well, yes, Witchers are these, loud, arrogant, monster slayers and stuff like that. They even have their limits. I mean, it's basically proving that the Witchers are still human, where Tetra has lost a lot of her morals, So yeah, and another, line you don't cross is making monsters to hunt yourself. So yeah, so Rydrich and Deglin were using alchemy and creating these new monsters in order to slay, and yeah, that's not good. That ain't good. And it is kind of interesting because, yeah, you hear in Season 2, again, why this works better after Season 2, is you hear about Deglin from Vesemir. It's like, well, he was one of the first Witchers who, imprisoned the Deathless Mother in the forest and stuff like that. And then he was Vesemir's master, as Vesemir is to Geralt, and Geralt is to Ciri. You have that sort of lineage there. But to see, it's like, this is how Deglin came to an end. He's worried about them. They needed to keep up their way of life, so he made monsters for the Witchers to hunt. And it's like, that is terrible. And yeah, you definitely start to see, where Geralt comes from. When it's like, when he tells Ciri, we don't kill monsters out of fear. We do it to save people. And he reiterates that later to Vesemir in Season 2. And then you definitely see where that starts, is he gets that from Vesemir, those morals that start here, There are some lines you don't cross. So that was really, really good. And then, yeah, so we got the sacking of Kaer Morhen, which, again, works a lot better if you know about it from Season 2. So that was good. A really great final battle. Animation just amazing all the way through. And a good fight between Tetra and Vesemir. That was really good. So yeah, and then unfortunately him accidentally stabbing Ilyana, which was sad, because I did like the time they shared together as they were older, I love immediately when she's talking about the nice life she had, and she's like, you want to kill my already dead husband and burn down that orphanage, don't you? It's like she immediately knows that he's jealous. He wants to, he still wants her after all these years, So I like that, and even just that nice. Honestly, I like that moment of that nice kiss, and it's like, oh, I'm almost 70, and he just is like, I don't care, basically. Like, that was a really nice moment. I like that, and yeah, it completely broke him when she died, And that's one of those things, something that has reiterated the morals and stuff, like, oh, these Witchers, they're monsters and stuff like that. It's like, no, they are still human, They are still human, and yeah, he cried over the loss of his friend. And then he got up, and he went in, and he went and got those boys and raised them properly. So yeah. But yeah, very, very interesting stuff with this one. Definitely playing more on the themes of, morality and monsters and stuff like that have already started, in the Witcher series, and showing how that basically led to a boiling point that ended with the sacking of Kaer Morhen. So yeah, very, very good stuff. I really enjoyed this. So yeah. I guess it's probably going to be a while before we do another Witcher episode, another Witcher reaction. I don't know what's going to come out first, either Season 3 of The Witcher or that Blood Origin show that's going to come out, or who knows, maybe another movie will come out, I don't know. But either way, whichever one does come out, you can definitely expect me there with a reaction, because I've really enjoyed this series. Again, I don't know anything about The Witcher, I'm just really enjoying this series. Great world, really, really enjoy it, So, yeah, really, really great stuff, but that is pretty much it. With all that being said, I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films, and I will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around to any of those. There's a playlist for all of my Witcher reactions, as well as a playlist for all of my movie reactions if you want to go check out any of those. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.